Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
There was an incident a few days ago you may have heard about. 4 teens were shot. Inside of a stolen vehicle.
Yeah.
So what happened was 5 kids were joyriding. Another car started following them, fired into the car, shot 4 of the kids. One of them was a girl who was 14, critically injured. But they were between the ages, most of them, of 11 and 13. And anyways, they had to call for help, or somebody called for help, and when the car got pulled over, it was discovered it was a stolen vehicle.
Holy shit!
And to jump ahead a bit, 2 of those kids had been arrested in a similar situation in a stolen vehicle not that long ago, and they just got released to their parents.
Ooh.
It's fucking ridiculous. The one kid in this instance with the car, the 5 of them, who didn't get shot, they called his folks, they sent him home with his folks.
You got to be kidding me.
Was he driving?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Either way, the point being is 4 kids were inside of a stolen vehicle at 1 a.m. on a Sunday, and they got shot. And I'm just like, okay, well, they say the suspects possibly knew them.
Oh.
Well, that's vigilante justice again.
Right?
And I'm not against it. And I said a few episodes ago that people are getting sick and tired of the crime, and society, small pockets of it, are going to band together and start striking back, almost like vigilante militias, because it's getting to a boiling point now where you almost get this purge mentality. We got to fucking get rid of the crap to make society better.
So are you suggesting that the person or people who had their car stolen tracked them down and then shot into the vehicle?
I don't know if that's the case because the details are murky and they're not saying anything due to the fact that it's an open investigation.
Sure, more details coming.
They got to play the cards close to the chest.
Well, and they can't know everything. Right? And like you said, only so much they can share, too. Yeah.
So here's the point of the episode. It's not that kids got shot for being shitty. It's what's going on afterwards. And there's 2 parties that are butting heads right now.
Okay.
One is Minneapolis Chief of Police Brian O'Hara, and the other is Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty.
Oh, she's got a
big
sucks fan rating in the
She's the one that was responsible for charging Trooper Ryan Londrigan with killing of the gentleman.
Where the charges were dropped.
They were dropped.
Yeah.
But she was all adamant that this cop needs to be held accountable. If we don't hold the cops accountable, other cops are going to think it's okay to kill people.
What?
Which I don't necessarily agree with.
It's a case-by-case situation. Each situation has to be handled as a unique situation. You can't worry about precedent one way or the other or just instantly jump to another conclusion that this was the same as our previous incidences here within this city.
I'm going to read some quotes, and they come from a KSTP site, a Fox site, and a local affiliate, KARE 11 and WCCO.
KARE Lesbian News.
Yep, that's all my sources. Okay. We already talked about this.
Okay.
4 children under the age of 15 were shot with 1 wounded critically after they were found driving a stolen car in Minneapolis over the weekend, according to police. MPD Chief Brian O'Hara said in a press conference, while officers were responding to several shot spotter activations in Minneapolis just after 1 a.m. Sunday, they were also notified of a 911 call reporting a vehicle with multiple people shot inside. There were 5 children inside the car, 4 of whom had gunshot wounds, 2 injured boys, 2 injured girls. They were between the ages of 11 and 14 and were taken to HCMC. He said one of the girls was shot in the head and was in critical but stable condition. The other 3 juvies were treated for non-life-threatening injuries. On Monday, Hennepin County Attorney's Office released a statement saying, and this is what pissed me off to no end. Here's a quote. "The shooting of 4 children in a car over the weekend is tragic and unacceptable. We must act with urgency to implement effective solutions to gun violence and ensure that no one in our community is victimized in this way." And when that shit got said, Brian O'Hara was like, fuck you. This is not a matter of gun violence and preventing gun violence. This is kids stealing cars and somebody seeking vengeance on them for doing so. So 4 kids shot between 11 and 14 is outrageous and everyone should be up in arms over it, O'Hara said. The police are doing everything that we can in response to this, but we can't keep responding after the fact. More needs to be done to deter this type of activity in the first place. He means the carjackings or the thefts. A 5th child in the vehicle was uninjured and initially detained after police found the children were riding in a stolen car. The recently rechristened Minnesota Star-Tribune reported the 11-year-old was later released to his parents.
Oh, they don't want to be Minneapolis Star-Tribune anymore?
Not anymore. They are no longer the West Side Fish Wrap.
Still.
Right. Police initially said they couldn't consider charges against any of the children, but later acknowledged they misinterpreted state law. Weird. According to the newspaper, children can be prosecuted in juvenile court. None of the children had been referred for adjudication in juvenile court as of Monday.
Because they were shot? Because it was tragic?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know, but it's like finger pointing started. And they're like, fuck you, cops, for not doing your job and putting these kids in the diversion program that I'm about to talk about. Not much is known publicly about the shooters, except that they were driving a dark car, but police say they knew some of the victims. 2 of the 5 Jewies involved in this incident tonight were arrested not even 2 weeks ago for being in a stolen car, O'Hara said. In a statement Monday, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty urged the Minneapolis Police Department to refer more children to an intervention program designed for youths who commit auto theft. Law enforcement has a variety of pathways to refer youth.
Classes.
Basically. So law enforcement has a variety of pathways to refer youth ages 10 and older to our office, Moriarty said. None of the children shot in the stolen vehicle had been referred to the program, she also claimed. O'Hara said his department often seen young people steal cars before becoming ensnared in violent activity. The kids weren't charged. They weren't diverted. Desperate pleas from their parents begging for help, begging for them to be detained. They were let back out on the street into the same environment to commit more crimes, said O'Hara. We've had several of the parents involved with these kids in the shooting this weekend asking us to arrest their kids, begging us to detain them because they can't control them and they're afraid they're going to get killed.
That is correct.
Ain't that a kick in the pants?
Right.
So he is saying, O'Hara, I mean, that they're not doing enough to charge these kids. Excuse me. Moriarty is saying, well, you're not referring him to the program. And I guess I read some numbers in a few websites that said in the first quarter and second quarter of the year, they referred X amount of kids, but in the third quarter, they've only referred 2. Like, it was very drastic decline in how many kids are referred to this program. And that's why the public's so mad, is because you get these kids that do this shit over and over again, habitually. It's a game to them because they know they're going to get released. It's catch and release, and that's what's pissing people off.
Yeah.
Because those of us that have a pro-cop, pro-crim justice mindset want them to be punished, not because we want them to just suffer, as much as the only way they're going to get it and it's going to click in their skull is the change has to be self-realized or self-actualized, where they're like, I need to stop fucking up. So you punish them so they stop fucking up.
Right.
And then all these fucking bleeding heart liberals are like, you can't lock these kids up. They're just children. You could ruin their life with this. It's like, don't fucking steal cars, and then you won't get charged with stealing cars.
Well, and just think about the accident aspect of it. You know, if something were to happen, obviously something did happen. These kids got shot. One of them was in critical condition. So, you know, there's all sorts of consequences that could come from this. So, yeah, you're right. They need to learn that they cannot be doing this kind of shit. And it shouldn't take them getting shot at in a car to teach them it.
But it's also like the kid that won't stop touching the hot stove because he thinks he's not going to get burned, and then he does. These kids think that they can just keep doing this shit without any sort of serious repercussions. And you cross the wrong fucking person, and they were strapped. Now, they may get caught down the line. I don't know. All they have to go on is there's a dark car, and they might know the victims. Mm-hmm. Well, that could be a number of fucking people. They'll probably start with whoever owned the vehicle they were in and see if they know anybody that has a dark sedan or dark car, and does that person have a history of violent crime? Are they a registered gun owner?
Right.
You're just going to start to follow those leads as best you can, because I guarantee this one gets the full attention due to the horrendous nature of what happened to these kids, especially if that one girl they say critical but stable, if she dies now,
Right.
holy fucking shit, are the lefties going to demand justice for this girl? There's going to be a statue for her. They're going to paint a mural somewhere and portray her as this grand victim
Of
of
what?
a system of generational poverty.
Of what, though? Like, how did the system fail her? Explain to me that.
Well, because we didn't give her enough money and hope and guidance to raise herself above her station, to not want to joyride in a stolen car with boys she's probably trying to impress. If I'm to speculate, and that's how young girls get caught up in dumb shit. I can't tell you how many times I saw women with no record suddenly arrested on serious drug crimes
Oh, sure.
down at the jail because they took the rap for their boyfriend who got busted in a car when he had his stash, and
can't
she
get
said it
caught
was
with this
hers.
again.
And if he gets caught, he's going to prison for 48 or however many fucking months. He's going bye-bye, and then I can't be with you and we can't live that life. And then while she gets her life ruined, he's off fucking somebody else, probably
yeah.
making a baby he's not going to be a father to. And the cycle just continues. But these kids with cars and their parents are like, please help us.
Yeah.
Lock up our kids. We can't control them. Well, how the fuck come you can't control your children like that? They're just out there in the streets. You get out there, and to quote Billy Madison, you got to get your ass out there and find that fucking dog.
So,
Got to find your kid and fucking grab by the collar and drag him home and shit.
11 to 14 years old. Mm-hmm. I mean...
5th to 7th grade.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking. And, you know, I don't know. I think in some ways we're fortunate with our kids, and some of the behavioral things that we've had to deal with, you know, haven't been that extreme. But I can't imagine that I wouldn't be able to keep control of my 5th grader, right? Like, I would be expecting the cops to arrest them because I couldn't. Now, that's just me.
I mean, they can
I'm
always
sure there's
sneak
a-
out while you're sleeping, and
Right.
you can't be fucking watch them 24/7.
You can't put a lock on them. You can't lock them in. You know, there's certain things you can't do, right?
It sucks as a parent to think that this is going on and the kids aren't being given a meaningful enough punishment that it clicks in them to stop. Why do we have to keep making excuses like they're just kids? They're just kids. The age of culpability in this state alone is 14, but they're saying that these kids can be charged anyway in juvenile court. So, if you're 11, you fucking know right and wrong, and you know you shouldn't be stealing a car. I don't know how you know how to drive that fucking car. That's a whole other story.
Or how big you are at that age to be driving it. I'm guessing the 14-year-olds were driving.
Probably. And one of them could have been a younger sibling who's just tagging along. But the fact remains, why the fuck do you think this is okay? What do we have to do to get these kids to appreciate consequences and respect for other people's personal property? Because that's what it really boils down to, all these stolen cars, is you don't look at this car as belonging to a person with a life, and it's their means of conveyance. It's how they get to work. It's how they bring their kids to school and to daycare and all this shit. And it's how you get around, because most people, they don't live, work, grocery shop, and go to school within a 6-block radius of their house where they can walk everywhere like it's NYC.
Right. But these kids are young. They have no concept of that.
They
Think
should.
about it. 11 years old. This kid was born in 2013. Jesus Christ.
I still think, like, my kids are 11 and 13.
Right.
And they damn sure know not to fucking steal, because they know I'm going to drop the hammer on them, and they know the consequences are real.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm ever going to get a phone call like, your daughter was mixed up in some theft ring, or she was found in a stolen car with some friends and there's been an accident. Like, it could happen, but my kids have seen people in their family fuck up, and friends' parents fuck up, and all kinds of people ruin their lives over this shit. So they're like straight as an arrow. I mean, they don't even swear in front of me if they think it's okay. They only drop swears when I'm not around. Mm-hmm. I know it because we were walking with one of their friends the other day, and my 11-year-old slipped and said, fucking. She's like, oh, sorry. Like, they fucking catch themselves and they punish themselves, and they rat themselves out for certain things.
Right.
Like, I know you said I shouldn't eat this, but I ate it. Or I did take some money off her dresser. I thought it was mine, but they try to justify it. But they're fucking straight A students.
Yeah.
Obviously, these kids are probably not. It's wild speculation on my behalf, but I don't feel like it's irresponsible of me to guess that in this neighborhood, with this crowd and this outcome, that these were future leaders of America. These are not. So dropping the hammer on these kids, you cool with that if they fucking lock them up for a period of time to teach them a lesson?
Well, I think that's fair. I honestly, like I said before, you have to be willing to accept consequences. And people are like, oh, they're kids. Well, therefore, if they're going to be in juvie court, they're going to get off light anyway. But at least give them some type of punishment, to at least try to correct this course, because it's not looking like it's going to get any better, because the parents obviously are not going to be able to step in. They're already asking for the cops' help. So
it's probably shitty of me to say, like, why can't you fucking get your kid in check? We all think that we know how to parent. But then you've got the independent variable of a child that has free will and just makes these decisions. And they probably think, because so many other kids get off scot-free or with a minor slap on the wrist, that, fuck it, I'm going to get off with this too. Especially these two fuckers that were found in a stolen car 2 weeks ago. These guys are, it's like an institutionalized thug mentality. You got to go hard to break that shit, or it's just going to get worse.
So here's my question to you.
Sure.
I want to make some assumptions about race, but I want to kind of go in the other direction. What if these were 4 white kids or 5 white kids?
Fucking drop the hammer. I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're from a rich fucking neighborhood. Your daddy and mommy shouldn't be able to pay some high buck lawyer to get you off scot-free. Everybody, regardless of their situation socioeconomically or the color of their skin, all have to answer to the same fucking rules and should all have the same opportunity to suffer for their crimes. Nobody should have to fucking get a harder sentence than somebody else based upon skin color. I think it's bullshit. And I get that people that come from poor neighborhoods can't afford attorneys, but then maybe you start saying that there's specifically assigned juvenile justice attorneys, that you can't hire an outside counsel. You have to rely on a fleet of government-employed public defenders and prosecutors. The government controls all the lawyers, so everybody gets the same shake, right? I know it's very idealistic, and it would take some doing to vote it into power, but that's the only way you're going to see the discrepancies in outcomes that are for, like, rich white kids versus poor black kids, or Mexican immigrant kids versus, a well-to-do, affluent Asian family where the dad's like a doctor and the kid's all set to go to college for engineering and he fucks something up.
Right. Well, what I was getting at with that is you had used the term thug mentality, so I was just making sure that the mindset wasn't being there, that there was a certain race element to this. Because you think about this, kids do this stuff all over the place. But if you do it in a rural area, one, you're less likely to get hurt. You're less likely to have somebody come and shoot you, or, you know what I mean? So the consequences are different when we're talking about inner city as well. There is a demographic. There is a regional component to this, right?
I would say in that instance, you would weigh the totality of the circumstances based on the level of inherent risk upon driving a stolen vehicle at a high speed and not obeying semaphores or stop signs, and there being a lot of people, depending upon the time of day, in the street that could potentially be killed by you or injured or maimed by you, and the frequency for that vehicle when you're driving it erratically, the whole drive it like you stole it mentality, and you hit somebody else and injure them, or you damage public property. Out on a country road at 3 a.m. in your dad's pickup truck is a far cry from carjacking somebody in the middle of, fucking northeast Minneapolis, and then going on a 6-block cruise and fucking doing donuts and shit and acting like an asshole and almost hitting other people in cars showing off.
Was this a carjacking?
I don't know.
Okay.
Either way, it's another instance of something that didn't need to happen because the youth of the nation don't have enough respect for themselves and other people's property to not keep committing these acts just for social media clout, which I think should escalate the charge. We've talked about another episode. Yeah. Or to seem like I'm so badass if they're in a gang trying to join a gang, or they're gang adjacents, or hangabouts is a term they use with some of the biker clubs. I'll use the word club, not gang. The point being is that thug mentality is... It used to be only a certain color and segment of the population glorified the violence and rap music and the culture of being a criminal, but now it just seems like all youth is lost and they all just collectively have blended together, but in the wrong fucking way. So many of them from various backgrounds, a level playing field, are getting into the same type of shit as they hang around people from different neighborhoods, different cliques, different stations in life. And it's just so easy, it seems, for them to turn off the common sense and respect and fear of consequences to just have a little fun. But it's not just fun. It can hurt or kill somebody.
I think that's always been the idiocy of youth, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's why kids of all times have been joyrides, right? They get the vehicle, they go out. A lot of people don't realize how reckless and stupid it can be, right?
Yeah, but then I would argue that it was like 20, 30, 40, 50 fucking years ago. The joyriding was to commit minor stupid acts of vandalism or property crimes to get some laughs.
Yeah.
Not stealing fucking cars and crashing them for fun and then running from the cops and getting detained or getting shot while in a stolen vehicle from somebody trying to get it back from you.
Right. True. There is an escalation, I guess, that seems to be occurring. But, I mean, that was always the case, right? I mean, there was always the risk that some dude would get mad and come back at you with a shotgun or something like that if you're going to steal his vehicle, right? Yeah, I get it.
It's just like in schools now where it used to be fighting at the flagpole, and then it was a bunch of kids throwing down off school sites so they don't get trespassed and arrested and suspended. And now it's risen to, it used to be school shootings were such an uncommon and heinous crime that they're so common now. It's the decay of the moral fabric of society, and it fucking sucks.
Oh, no, exactly. We shouldn't normalize any of this.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
This is Steiny.
And that's the end.